Hi, and welcome to Module 4, Lesson 1. So far in this e-course, we have talked about your floor plan, we've talked about your foundation, we've talked about establishing a strong brand framework for your business, and we've talked about the fixtures that you need in your business, or the systems and processes that you need in place to help your business operate smoothly. In this lesson, my goal is to help you get a better understanding of your brand and how it relates to your business. We've got a couple of exercises that are going to help you better understand your brand and help you communicate your brand better to your audience. So let's just talk for a really quick minute about branding. Branding is a big business buzzword these days, and for good reason. It's a lot of fun. If we go back to that house analogy, the finishing touches are one of the most fun parts of building a house, right? Most of us are creatives, and it doesn't take much to suck us into wanting to go to the paint store and pick out a new living room wall color. But the fact of the matter is, we have to have the walls up first, and that's what we did by establishing fixtures and framework before we've gone on to these finishing touches. So now I want to walk you through some brand systems and talk to you about some things that you can do to put your finishing touches on your business. And I want your customers to be able to experience your brand and your business and know it's yours. That's what a well-branded business will do for you. Now, to keep this simple, I've broken the concept of branding out into 3 simple steps. I'm going to recap them here really quickly, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper to each of these steps. The first step is authenticity. Your brand needs to be authentic. And we covered a lot about what makes your brand authentic in Module 1. The second step is your brand needs to have an audience. And we talked about that in the customer systems part of Module 3. And the third thing that your brand has to do is it has to take action consistently and passionately. So we're going to talk more in depth about these 3 steps of branding right now. The first step, authenticity, was covered in depth in Module 1. But I want to make sure that you understand that your brand needs to start with genuine purpose. So just a really quick recap on your purpose. It's a combination of 2 specific things: your powers and strengths, so what you're naturally gifted at, or what you've had time to learn enough about to be considered an expert, and 2, your principles and values, the things that matter most to you. So the next question you're probably wondering about is, now that I know what my purpose is, how do I put it into practice? We've covered that, but just as a quick recap, there's 2 ways you can go about doing that. The first way is look at your powers and strengths and think about how you can help other people in those areas. And the second way is, I want you to not be afraid to take a stand for your principles and values. Now, a question I get a lot on that last tip is, what if my values and my principles are going to offend someone? And here's my response to that. Your goal as a brand is to draw people to you or drive them away. We're all going to have critics, and when you hit a successful point in business, you're going to have to deal with the fact that you can't please everyone. So focus on the people you can please and continue to delight them. They'll love you for it. Now, this leads us into talking about the next step in branding, which is your audience or your customer. As we talked about in one of the previous modules, in order to run a successful and profitable business, you have to understand your customer. And the better you understand your customer, the better you can serve them. And the better you can serve them, the more money you'll make. Now let's do a quick recap on how you can find your customer and connect with your customer. 4 quick tips on how to find your audience. Remember your values. Like attracts like. When you communicate your values to your audience, the people who appreciate those values are going to be drawn to you. The second point I want you to remember is that an audience of 1 is still an audience. Even if you only have 1 customer, survey them, find out what they need, and do the best you can to serve them. Here's another good tip: coffee and cocktails. Especially if you're building a national audience, getting it face-to-face with your customers can be hard, but it can be so rewarding. The most successful business people I know are people who willingly spend the time and money to meet their customers and their audience face-to-face. The fourth thing, and we covered this in one of the previous lessons, is really listen to the problems that they're experiencing. Some people are really good about doing this in a big group setting, like a speaker on stage, and some business people are better about doing this in a small group setting or even one-on-one. Do whatever works for you, but be sure that you're always listening to your customer. Now, in addition to finding your audience, you want to make sure that you're connecting with your audience. And simply by using the 4 tips I just went through, you're going to better connect with your audience. But remember that connection happens over those values and principles. And we're going to talk more about how you can communicate those in the next lesson. So really quickly, let's move on to the third and final step in branding, which is action. I want you to get a plan in place to help you communicate to your audience passionately and consistently. Now, there are 2 points I want you to remember about taking action. The first one is this: you're not going to get it right every time. Communication, and marketing specifically, is always an experiment. Just like in baseball, you don't hit a home run every time. In communication, you're going to have more strikes than home runs, but you have to keep trying, and I don't want you to get discouraged. If you give up because you feel like you're constantly striking out, you'll never hit the home run. So keep moving forward with communication strategies, and you'll eventually find the right customer. The next thing I want you to remember is this: your audience doesn't care about what your values mean to you. They care about what your values mean to them. So in your communication strategy, think about how you can help them live a richer life in those values that come naturally to you. The most successful businesses I know utilize a communication strategy that focuses on the customer and less on the business. Sure, a little behind the scenes from time to time is interesting, but the bottom line is your customer is only interested in what you can do for them. In summary of all this, branding can be a very complicated topic, as we'll discuss in the next 2 lessons. I wanted to break it down for you here as simply as possible to remind you that it's really only these 3 things: authenticity and being the best version of yourself you can possibly be, understanding your audience and listening to them, and taking action as best you can, as consistently as you can. I firmly believe that actually one of the best business strategies you can have in place is a strong brand strategy. So in the next lesson, we're going to talk about brand messaging, and we're going to work on getting some solid brand messaging in place for your business. Go ahead and join me over there now.